Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you please take your seats at this time as the program will begin momentarily.
Research often starts with a question. What kind of materials can be used to make buildings more energy efficient? How many cars can a bridge hold? How much oxygen can one tree produce? To answer these questions, we can use a systematic approach, and one systematic approach is the use of quantitative research method. Most of you might be quite familiar with quantitative research. Quantitative research involves something that is measurable, as such quantifiable. Unlike qualitative research that involves more textual kind of information, quantitative research involves numerical data or information that can be converted into numbers. In short, quantitative research gives you the big picture of what is happening, the trend and pattern. What do people think of computer games? Do they think of computer games as stimulating? Whereas qualitative research helps to gain an understanding of the underlying trend. Why do they think computer games are mentally stimulating? At the end of this video, you'll be able to formulate a quantitative research question, identify variables and scales of measurement, and you'll also be able to differentiate between correlational and experimental research methods. Suppose you want to design a computer game on research methods. You observe that there are many ways in which a game can be designed, whether there is an adventure in a game or a stimulation in a game. You would like to find out what kind of game design will be the most helpful and most interesting for the students taking a course. A research question can be formulated as, does a simulation game benefit students in a course? We can go one step further by defining what it means by benefit. Does simulation increase students' performance, or does simulation game make students more interested in the course? After formulating a research question, we generate a theory to help us explain the observed data. One explanation for why a simulation game might benefit students is that simulation games increase students' engagement and students' interest in the course would increase as well. We can make a prediction from the theory, known as a hypothesis. For example, students who play the simulation game will score higher in the research methods test than students who did not play the simulation game. Hypotheses can be confirmed or disconfirmed empirically by means of collecting and analyzing data. After data collection, we use statistical methods to analyze the data as a way to test our hypothesis in order to check if our theory is true. Before collecting data to test a hypothesis, we need to know what we want to measure. The what is known as the variables. Let's start with knowing what to measure. There are two types of variables. The first type is the dependent variable, also known as the outcome. The variable can be seen as the effect that is being explained. Back to the game example, a dependent variable that we want to measure might be students' score in a test or their interests. The value of this variable is caused by or vary depending on the second variable, the independent variable, also known as the predictor. It is usually the variable that explains the outcome. In the game example, the independent variable will be whether the students played the simulation game. The numbers that represent what is being measured is known as the levels of measurement. They can be broadly categorized as categorical, ordinal, or continuous variable. As the name suggests, categorical variable is when the variable is made up of categories. If there are only two categories, the variable is known as a binary variable. For example, being alive or dead, yes or no. If there are more than two categories, the variable is known as a nominal variable. For example, the type of animals, dogs, cats, chickens, and ducks, brands of potato chips. And when the categories have an order, they are known as an ordinal variable. For example, the order of winners in a course. Continuous variable can either be measured at an interval scale where the difference between the two values are meaningful. For example, a 5-point rating, a rating of 4 is better than a rating of 2. Or measured at a ratio level where there is a clear definition of 0. For example, reaction time of 4 seconds is twice as slow as a reaction time of 2 seconds. Can you think of examples for each level of measurement? Back to the research process. To systematically collect the data, we need to know how to measure the variables. Let's proceed with how to measure. There are two types of research methods, correlational research and experimental research. In correlational research, we observe what is happening without changing anything or interfering with what is happening. Note that correlation does not imply causation. Just because we notice a relationship between two variables, it does not mean that one causes the other. Here is a chart that shows an increasing number of men being awarded bachelors over the years. The same increment is observed for online revenue on Black Friday. Just because both variables increase over time, it does not mean that Black Friday sales have anything to do with the number of men getting their bachelors. While correlational research does not provide a causal link, to examine whether there is a causal link, we often have to manipulate one variable to see its effect on another variable. Therefore, we have to conduct an experiment, also known as an experimental research, where we directly manipulate a variable. In experimental design, we have either an independent design, where we manipulate the independent variable using different groups of people. We can offer the simulation type game to one group and not to the other. Or we can also test different types of games by offering another type of game design, maybe one with an adventure, to another group of students, and we can see whether these three groups differ in their test scores. The other experimental design is called a repeated measure design, where we manipulate the independent variable using the same group of people. Back to the game example, it will be all of them trying out both types of game design. So far, we have discussed the type of variables and levels of measurement. We have also discussed how we can measure the variables. Using what you have learned so far, think of how you can design a quantitative study to answer your research question.